What's going on, everyone? Ryan here. So today we're going to be doing an audio review on the new Superman film. I did see this last week. I just hadn't had time to actually record something. I was on a way to a concert, actually. So I was away from actually recording anything. So finally getting a chance to actually sit down and talk about my thoughts on this new film. It's directed by James Gunn. He's done the Guardian films, which I absolutely love those films. But then he's also done Suicide Squad, the remake, and honestly, I hated that movie. I still don't like that movie to this day. I've tried to watch it a few times. It's not my thing. James Gunn is definitely a director where there are times for me where his humor works, and then other times where it's just plain stupid to me, and Suicide Squad is one of those movies where it's just not for me. So with this movie, I would say I was kind of optimistic to a point. I mean, I did recently watch Man of Steel. I really did like that movie. And I've seen Batman vs. Superman as well. But other than that, I really haven't watched any other Superman films. I haven't watched the older films with Christopher Reeves. So I don't have any of that background going into this film. Now, this film, it stars David Corenswet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Isabela Merced as Hawkgirl, Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern. You also have Frank Grillo in here, Rick Flag Sr., Edi Gathegi, I think that's his name. He's Mr. Terrific in this. You have Skylar Gisondo, I think that's how you pronounce it, Jimmy Olsen in here. You have a lot of characters in here, a lot of actors and actresses that have been in a ton of different things. So it's got a pretty big cast, so definitely praise to the cast here. So with this movie, it's kind of a mix of a plot, I would say, because you have Lex Luthor, who wants to eliminate Superman. He's got everybody in Metropolis trying to go against him. And then there's also like this war going on as well, which is like the big talk of the town with like the whole political aspect, which, I don't know, it kind of strikes the surface a little bit with that, but it didn't really wholeheartedly bother me. This film in particular, it introduces Superman 3 years into his journey as Superman. And literally the movie starts off really strange because it starts with him getting his ass kicked. And it feels like you're just getting dropped into like the middle of a season. Like this is like season 3 and you've gotten dropped into the middle of this. He's getting his ass kicked. I will say that there's a lot of people that have said that they haven't really enjoyed the fact that he does get his ass kicked a lot in this film. And I understand from a perspective of he's Superman. But for me, I like that vulnerability for him to have that, because how many times have you watched a superhero movie and it's just so easy for them? So I did like they changed up a little bit about this film and just like how a superhero, isn't all perfect and he's going to get his ass kicked at times. So I agreed with that in that aspect. The movie has plenty of action. There's so much action in this film. If you love action, I mean, you can never be bored in this film because there's so much really going on in this film. It's visually good. I think there's a lot of cool scenes with Superman where he's flying through the air, and I was like, oh, that's like a really cool scene. Some of like the camera work and the fight choreography is pretty good. I think like my two favorite scenes in this movie is probably the fight in the baseball stadium. That was really cool. And then the whole ice glacier castle that he has, of the Fortress of Solitude, I think that's how you say it. That whole part is really cool. I like that he has that, in the beginning of the movie, and then he's got like all these robots. And then Krypto, we get introduced to Krypto in here, which I've heard people say that the dog is really annoying in here. But to me, I felt as if the dog was in it enough, but not too much, but still played a role. I didn't find him annoying, mainly because I believe they said in the movie that it's not particularly his dog. So to train a dog to do something and it's not really your dog, it's extremely difficult. So I think that Krypto was played well and written well to what he's supposed to be doing in this role as playing as a dog. So I didn't really have any issues with him. I also felt from seeing Man of Steel, Lois Lane had a lot more to do here. I think that she's a lot more comfortable with her character. Like, she's got like this confidence about her, but she also wants to get the story. Like, at one point we do see some friction between her and Superman. She's trying to ask him questions and he gets kind of offended, and I did like to see scenes like that. Clark Kent, David Corenswet as Clark Kent, I would say that, he's not really Clark Kent much in this movie, but I feel like a lot of those things were kind of glanced over, mainly because I felt like they wanted to make this more so for the comic book fans. I think the casual viewer that may not know Superman's backstory may not be happy that they don't get to see Clark Kent as much, and maybe they don't get like the backstory of Superman as much in this film. But I do feel like with him just being as Superman for 3 years, I do feel like we see a lot of vulnerability in him, and there's points where he's not really a polished superhero all the way, because there are moments in here where he gets super angry at Lex Luthor, and I like to see that. There's a point in here too where there's like a pocket universe that he goes into and gets captured. And just seeing him in that situation, it's like, well, how's he going to get out of this situation? I like to see those kinds of moments because it doesn't seem like it's such an easy thing for him. So I enjoyed those little aspects when we kind of have that as well. Mr. Terrific in this film was very good. I don't really know the guy that played him, really, to be honest. He may have been in some other movies. I think he was in Twilight, now that I think about it. But I don't think I know him in anything else. I thought he was great in this movie. He plays a pivotal role in this movie and did a great job. Hawkgirl, she was kind of there. Isabela Merced, I felt like she just kind of was like rounding out the trio. We also have Green Lantern in this as well. And at first when I saw him on screen, I was like, great. We got this like B-flick Woody Harrelson. At first I kind of thought it was Woody Harrelson for a moment just because of like his accent. But like kind of once we got into the character a little bit, I liked his little humor and banter in here. And then when it comes to the humor in here, I think it's honestly kind of a mix for me, because on one end I think it works, but then there's other points where Superman should be a little bit more serious, and then he kind of throws in those jokes and you're like, dude, we're not in Guardians of the Galaxy here. So I didn't like that kind of aspect at certain times. Now we go into my negatives a little bit, and my thing with this movie is there's a lot of shifting in tones. I felt like what I was just saying, at times there are scenes that should be serious and they're not serious. Like, there's literally one scene in here, I don't even think you can even really ignore this scene, where Lois Lane and Superman are talking in a room, and then outside there's like this like alien or something out there, and like neon lights, and it's like dark time. I was like, man, like we're trying to have a serious moment here, and we got that whole thing going on in the background. I think there was like another scene too where like he saves a squirrel as well, and I was like, do we need that? Do we need that humor? Didn't agree with it. As far as the CGI goes, I think for the most part I didn't mind it, but there was one point when we're in the Pocket Universe and I was like, man, that CGI is awful. And I guess they were trying to capture a more cartoony feel with it, but I was like, there's no way I can overlook this. This just looks really bad. So I didn't like that aspect of the movie as well. I think also too, there's not a lot of depth, especially with like Lex Luthor. You know, I think he plays the character a lot better than Jesse Eisenberg in Man of Steel, so there's definitely improvement in that aspect. They don't really dive too much into why he hates Superman. There's like this plan with him and the government and him trying to get rid of Superman and him being in the way, but they don't really dive too much into like his motivation as much. So the depth there, it's just not there. And the movie, to me, it moved at a really fast pace. It didn't really allow you to breathe. There's like a million characters in here, which definitely was a misfire to me because, you know, there's so much going on at you, and even though you get that nonstop action, I'm like, okay, so can we get a little bit story here? I feel like there's certain ideas that they just kind of build up and they just kind of have it at a stopping point where they don't really continue with that. And then there's certain ideas and questions you want to kind of get answered, and we don't really go that route. So to me, it was kind of messy, but at the same time, it definitely had its moments where I was like, oh, this is a fun time. There's some cool fight scenes. There's some cool action. I thought David Corenswet did a good job. I think mostly everybody in this movie does a pretty good job, but I think there are just certain moments in this film where you just wish there was a little bit more depth, and certain scenes that you wish would be maybe fleshed out more, or certain ideas that you wish that would be fleshed out more, but we don't get it, unfortunately. Also, the score and the music, I mean, the score was like okay. I think the music was nothing special. I don't really remember anything really special about the music. I mean, this is definitely one of those movies where, you turn your brain off. You can't really think a lot about the plot. Honestly, I think this is like the perfect movie. Like, if you're literally chilling at the house and you're doing dishes and like laundry and stuff, like you have this on in the background. Not to say it's not like a fun movie, because it is, but I think from a story aspect, you can't take it too serious, because it definitely lacks in the department with trying to build a cohesive plot. And I think for me, because I gave Man of Steel a 4 out of 5, I would give this movie a 3.5 out of 5, and not so much so that it has like every little bullet point from a checklist point of view of what I would want in a movie, but mainly because I think I had a good time with the performances. I think there's some things they did better than Man of Steel, but I also think there are things to improve upon. And I don't know if it's a movie where I'd watch like so many times, like as like a really good superhero movie if I wanted like a story, rather than just like if I wanted to sit back and just kind of watch the action. I feel like this is that kind of movie. You just turn your brain off, watch the action, don't think about the plot too much. Though there are some good ideas, sure, and I think there are points in the movie where you're going to like certain characters, like Mr. Terrific. He really stands out. I definitely want to watch those scenes again. Like I said, I really like the stadium scene, so I want to watch those scenes again. But am I going to really think in depth and have emotional moments in this film as I watch it time and time again? Personally, I don't think so. There are definitely moments they try to squeeze in emotional moments, but to me, it just didn't really work out. So 3.5 out of 5 is what I would give this film. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of it. I know this has very divisive opinions. I would say I like this film enough, but if I'm really going down the checklist and saying that this is a really great movie, probably not, but I think it's a good movie and it's entertaining. I just think there are some things that I personally would have changed about it to be a better movie. But thank you guys for listening to this review, and I will see you guys next time.